With the 27th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Anton Harrison, tackle, Oklahoma.
That's how it sounded night one in the NFL Draft. The Jaguars have a selection in the first round, and now it's on to day number 2. He has arrived in Jacksonville. He was at the bank earlier today. Anton Harrison from Oklahoma is the newest addition. And welcome in. It's now day 2 coverage of the NFL Draft presented by Dreamfinders Homes. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, Kai Stevens, Bucky Brooks is coming up. Boy, some excitement today here at the bank, Kai.
So special, of course. Whenever you get picked to go to the NFL, it's dreams becoming realized. His family was with him today. We got to speak to him, and he's just really excited to be here and get started.
Really cool day, John.
Well, it always is, and I look forward to writing the story from this day as much as any all year, because it truly is the first day of the rest of their lives. And it's also, you see a kid who has worked to get to this point, and then you also know from experience, hey, it's just starting now. So I like this kid. I'll share why as we move on.
Yeah, we'll get into the football part of this coming up in just a little bit. But, of course, the Jaguars last night had the 24th overall pick. Trent Baalke and the staff made 2 different trades to move back to 27. They added 3 different day 3 picks. We'll get to all the picks coming up in just a little bit, but they finally made the selection at number 27 overall. Today, he arrived in Jacksonville. He toured the facility, met some of the staff, met the media here as well today. Well, he was always been a big football player. Early in his career, though, he felt like he might have been playing another position. That didn't last very long.
Well, I was always big, but when I first started playing football, I thought I was a tight end, so I played tight end a little bit. I tried to always do 7-on-7, things like that. But, my coach was like, you playing offensive line. So that's where I started playing offensive line, but I always tried to run some routes, catch the ball, score some touchdowns.
He showed up in Norman, Oklahoma, and right away was on the field and just continued to grow and grow into a fantastic player, all Big 12 player. Phil Rauscher actually got time with him at his pro day leading into the NFL Draft, the Jaguars offensive line coach working with him there. He is light on his feet. He's a speedster, under 5-second 40 time at the combine, and head coach Doug Peterson knows that kind of skill set can translate to the league.
It's the reason we took him, in the first round. Everything about him, his skill set, how he fits, how he moves, the transition from right side to left side, and his ability to not only pass block but come off the ball and have that mean streak in him as an offensive lineman, right, in the run game. And that's what you see with him, and that's what we got excited about, obviously.
Well, what kind of fit is he off the field in this organization? That's almost as big as on the field for a lot of pieces of the Jaguars right now. But Trent Baalke, the GM, knows that his personality and the background will make him a great fit.
It wasn't just about football. It was about his family. It was about his teammates, what he did during the week with his teammates to kind of build a bond. It's the same thing we're trying to build here, so it was a natural fit.
Well, let's get into the football side of this now. Anton Harrison played over 1,000 snaps, only 4 sacks, John, in his 3 years on the field in Norman, and he'll have some opportunities, I think, early to get on the field here.
Well, it's hard to imagine him not being on the field to start the season. The question becomes, is he at right or left? I don't have the answer to that yet. I don't think anybody does. You would think right, because Walker Little has played so well on the left. You would think that'd be the logical fit. But again, this is 24 hours after the kid got here, so I don't know the answer to that. I do know, everybody always tries to read into things. You know that, JP, right? It's big read into things.
No, they don't. Come on. Of course
I got a lot of emails from people saying, oh, this wasn't the guy they wanted. This was, they did this because of this or X or Y. Well, if you think about it, they traded back 2 or 3 times, clearly knowing that this was the guy they wanted. And if you look at the trades, that's how it was playing out. So they wanted this guy. My understanding is they wanted him over the guys that we were all talking about, and that they were ecstatic to get him. I ran into Press Taylor coming out of the press conference, very happy. This is the guy we wanted. They know people at Oklahoma. They have a strong comfort level with what kind of kid this is. You know what I love, JP? I love that he didn't come in. I'm the old man right now. He didn't come in the suit. He didn't come in, with an 8-piece suit with 4 vests he came in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. This kid's after my own heart. He's ready to go to work. I mean, I just liked the demeanor. I liked that he wasn't trying to impress people. I think he's here to play football. I like this kid, Kai, because he doesn't have an 8-piece suit.
He's got good energy, too. We got to sit down with him today after, he's going through the whole rigmarole with being the first-round draft pick, and he brought his family with him. He's very excited to just get to work. We talked about, where he might be playing because we don't really know right now. He seemed up to the challenge. He seemed excited about it, actually. He's like, yeah, I'll play wherever they want to put me, pretty much, and pretty confident in his ability to do that. And I know Trent and Doug said, maybe we'll see him in different positions at different times, but obviously you can never have enough in terms of protection for Trevor Lawrence, right? Even if he ends up being a backup when Cam comes back or wherever he ends up playing, that's a good problem to have.
We saw that last year, obviously, with inside and outside of the offensive line. Both of those backup swing players played extensive stretches down the stretch, especially to get this team to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've been a broken record on that for 2 or 3 months. It's why I thought tackle was such a possibility. I just keep going back to the day that Cam Robinson went down out here. That was when they beat the Cowboys. They came back. It set a tone for the season. But if Walker Little doesn't come in, and, JP, you were around. After Walker Little came in, there was never any more talk about that left tackle position.
No.
It was seamless. And I've got to believe that sitting in those draft rooms, everybody in the organization probably kept going back to that. Hey, this is a long season. It's 20, 21 games if you want to get to the Super Bowl. I just believe right now this team's approach is we need at least 7 offensive linemen who we can count on and play. We have 7 starting spots, not 5. To me, that's what this pick was about. And I wouldn't be surprised if the moves next off season, if you see them continue down this path. If they do release Cam after this season because of cap reasons, I'm not so sure they don't try to make sure they've got a third tackle all the time because they saw how important it was.
Yeah, best 5 could be applicable too. If all of a sudden he's better than a guard and the other tackles are out there, hey, make your offensive line better as a whole, guy.
I think Trent specifically mentioned, maybe we can put him at guard, right? So that's definitely going to be an option for them. I think just bringing in someone young and to learn with that group as well, because they all, from the ones I've spoken to so far being here, they all seem to be very much on the same page. I know Coach and Trent were able to go see him at the Combine and see what they were impressed. Obviously, he's very fast, especially for a man that large, which is always impressive. So I think once he gets here, there's a lot of that raw ability, and I think he'll only get better now that he'll be working on it every single day as a pro.
Coming up on the second day, rounds 2 and 3, starting at 7 o'clock, about 20 minutes from right now. Of course, the Jaguars, as we mentioned, traded back last night twice, starting at number 24. They finished with the 27th pick. They had an opportunity, they said, at least to move back some more, but decided just to go ahead and make the pick. Here's what's left on the docket. 2 picks tonight, 1 in the second, 1 in the third. The rest are day 3 picks, but there is ammunition in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds if you want to go that deep to try to move up. Even into today, 2nd, 3rd round, we'll see what Trent Baalke has up his sleeve. The Jaguars have the 25th pick in the 2nd round, so it'll be a little bit tonight before they're on the clock, unless, John, they make some moves, and Trent Baalke said that's a distinct possibility.
He better get his rear end in gear and start trading up. And kidding aside, because I don't think there's any doubt that the moves last night, once they got on the clock and they saw that Harrison was going to be there, from 24 to 27, they could have kept picking Harrison, but they knew the teams that were coming up to get him were not going to trade. We're not going to pick Harrison. At that point, I think somewhere in the pre-draft meetings, Trent knew that was going to be a possibility. And I think he was saying to himself, if I can get back on day 1 and add a few picks, then I can turn 56 and what's the pick later tonight, 88. I've just got to believe that he believes he can turn those numbers into getting into the 40s, getting into the maybe low 60s. because of the nature. If you think about it, everybody's talked about coming into this draft. What's deep? Tight end, cornerback. Beyond the names we all talked about, this was deep into the second and third round. I've got to believe they're targeting guys at a couple of those spots with the idea of using those picks they gained to get up.
Got to use them at some point, whether you pick a guy or use them to pick some guys higher up the board.
I'd like to see the inverse of what we saw last night, right? Like just dish off like 5 picks and get a couple guys that you're really targeting. I think it's exciting, at least for me, because obviously since Trent's been here, he hasn't been necessarily in this position because they've had a higher first round pick. So just to kind of see what his mindset is and how he goes about drafting at this position, and will it be more trying to get those value around late first, second, third, and have less picks, or is he going to try to keep all of these picks and do something with that?
Let's see what Bucky Brooks has to say about it. NFL Network analyst joining us now from Los Angeles, California. And, well, first off, good afternoon, Bucky. Here we are going into day number 2. The Jaguars have a bunch of picks remaining, 11 picks left as they stand right now. Do you expect them to have 11 more players at the end of this draft?
No, I don't expect that. I think Trent will move around the board to find the guys that they want. I think the big thing is identifying the guys that can come in and not only compete but really contribute. And so that might take moving up and down the board to kind of get in range for some of those guys. But no, I don't expect 11 guys to be added to the roster at the end of this draft.
Bucky, how much of the Harrison pick do you think was about tackle being such a premium, meaning there weren't going to be a whole lot of them after him who come in and play right away, but yet corner, tight end, some of these other positions people are talking about being deep. You talked on Huddle Up this week about sort of an overall plan for the first 2 days. Do you think that's what we were seeing with that Harrison pick and then into tonight?
Yeah, a lot of what you do is, John, you're looking at what we call the horizontal board. You're looking at all the positions, and you're trying to weigh supply and demand. And at that point of the draft, the supply of tackles was fewer than the supply of cornerbacks that would be available in the second and third round. And so what you do is you grab the best tackle that you can grab, and then you know that, okay, day 2, we need to make sure that we get some DBs that can play. But the depth at the secondary position was far more plentiful than the depth that was available at the offensive tackle spot.
Yeah, JP, I can't tell you how many times I've had a GM after the first day walk by and say, you guys know the draft's not over yet. It's because we spend so much time talking about it and so much analysis on that, and people put everything onto that first round pick, and when they're looking at it, they want to get 3 or 4 guys to go in. So it really is that package, and I think that's what most people miss when they are spending so much time on the first round guy.
Bucky, do you have any insight where they're going to go from here? Obviously, offensive tackle was something we talked about them possibly doing, but now that they have this mass of picks, what they might try to get out of it?
I think secondary will be addressed, and secondary in a few different spots can be addressed, not only outside at corner, but finding a guy that is a pure nickel corner, someone that can play in the slot and is very comfortable playing in the slot. And so when you have the kind of draft capital that you have, you can kind of target the top guys at each of those respective positions and put yourself in a spot where you can get one of those players. The most important part is offensively, the Jags look like they're in good shape. Can you build a complementary defense that can match what the offense can do? And so that's going to take making sure you upgrade the secondary so you can play the style that Mike Caldwell and Doug Peterson want to play in the back end.
Bucky, I was remiss before the draft because I spent so much time talking about Brian Branch that I acted like he was the only guy who could play nickel in this whole draft. So I'm assuming that Branch won't slip to where they can get him. Maybe they want him. I'm not sure. If it's not Branch playing nickel, give me some other guys who fans might look for tonight who might fit at that nickel spot that we've been talking about so much.
So the good thing about this year's draft is a lot of the safeties that are in the class kind of play that nickel position. At the college level, the collegiate level, they call it the star position. And so you have Branch, but then you have other guys like Sidney Brown who can come in and drop in the box and make some plays. You have guys like, I would say Jamie Robinson from Florida State who can man that position. And then you can go to the cornerback spot and find guys like a Clark Phillips from Utah who can play naturally at corner because that's what he's done throughout his time with the Utes. There are other corners that can do it, but what you want to do is more of a projection, trying to find someone that can go inside. Normally, the nickel position is the hardest position to play because there's so much thinking required in there. You got to think and act like a linebacker while having the skills to move around and cover like a corner. Everyone doesn't have that. That's why a lot of people don't like going in there. Real noisy in there, John. Noisy, a lot of noise.
Yeah, I don't like noise, and
No.
I can't drop in the box either.
No, and get off
I'm
his
not
lawn.
playing in the league.
Get off his lawn
That's
too
right.
while you're at it. Final thought here with you, just going back to Harrison, Bucky. What kind of player is this guy? What did they add at 27 last night?
You know, this was a really good pick. He's a guy who has really good athleticism. He is a mover. Now, the thing is, he's probably a little more developmental in his play than you would kind of project for a first-round pick, but that's actually fine because when you think about where the Jags are positioned, initially it's a little more of a depth need where you're thinking about long-term. He's going to come in and develop, but he's certainly good enough to play right away. There are things that he does, particularly in pass protection, that are solid. It's just about cleaning up his technique and getting him ready. But I'll say this. He's a better prospect than Cam Robinson was when he entered the league, and we've seen how Cam has played for the Jags at left tackle. This is a solid pick. It's hard to find big guys that can move around like this guy can move, and so now it's about getting him in the building and developing him.
Bucky, I couldn't agree more that I'd be stunned if one of the picks tonight isn't a corner. But help me out on the other one. I mean, I've been talking tight end all off season, but I don't necessarily know that it has to be tight end with the other pick tonight. Where else could they go that makes sense?
You know, like now when you get into it, you're thinking about best player available. And I know it's cliche for everyone to say that, but what you're trying to do is add good players to the roster. This roster is going to be very, very competitive in terms of guys making it. So you want to find guys who have special traits that will give them a chance to not only make the team, but to be contributors. You talked about how people give you a hard time outside of day one, that the draft doesn't end there. But really, on day two, the second and third round, you still should be finding guys that can be future starters. And so we can talk about tight end. A good tight end falling to him, I think you have to pull the trigger. If you can find a traditional wide tight end, someone to fill the role that Chris Manners and some of those other guys have done, attached to the tackle, doing the blocking stuff so Evan Ingram can play that jumbo wide receiver role that he's played. I think tight end certainly can be in play. But then outside of that, it's adding depth. And we talked about it. At some point, you might want to look at finding a future replacement for Brandon Scherf on the offensive line.
Bucky, great stuff as always. Thanks for the time. We'll catch back up with you, I'm sure, this evening at some point, right?
Yeah, man, I'll just be sitting here waiting for you guys to call.
Oh, well, guess what? We're going to call, and we're going to call often. We will take you up on the offer. That's Bucky Brooks, NFL Network. John Oehser, Kai Stevens, thanks to our entire crew. And, of course, you can tune in for the NFL Draft on NFL Network, ESPN, and ABC. It starts in about 10 minutes from right now. Rounds number 2 and 3 tonight, and then the rest of them coming up tomorrow. A busy weekend. The Jaguars have their first-round draft pick. He was in the building today. They'll look to build upon that starting tonight. The Jaguars have the 25th pick of the second round, at least for now. That'll do it. Our Day 2 coverage of the NFL Draft is presented by Dream Finders Homes. Enjoy rounds 2 and 3.